You never know what's going to come forth. And may 2016 bring you that health and that wholeness, the love, the peace, and the joy that you deserve. I hope you also had a really nice holiday season. I don't know about you, but this is one of the best ones I've had in a long time. It's food for another message, but just to let you know, I spent Christmas Eve going to 4 different services. None of them unity. I wanted to see how other people were celebrating, and it was very interesting. They all had communion. They all had a candle lighting service, and it was a really time of coming together and a good way for me to remember that oneness in the world. And I know during this Christmas time that we gave a lot. We may have given presents. We may have given our presence of being there. We may have given our time, our talent, our tithe, and our treasure. But did we perform the greatest act of love? Did we complete the greatest act of love? Now, I don't know what's going through your minds right now, besides, what is the greatest act of love? Well, we can define it in a whole lot of ways, but today I'm going to see this as loving ourselves. Let that sink in. The greatest act of love is loving ourselves. Now, I bet there are some of you who are saying, really? This is the greatest act? Loving myself? Well, how selfish is that? I must be a narcissist if I want to do that. Yes? If I love myself, this is how I'm going to look and act and be. I'm going to be greedy. I am going to be ungrateful. I'm going to be selfish. And yes, I suppose if we take this to the nth degree, one could go over on that side. But that's not what we're talking about today. We are talking about love and loving ourselves. And this act of loving ourselves has had a rotten deal over the years, because it has given us the impression that if we love ourselves, we are doing it at the cost of loving other people. We're doing it and we're thinking about me first and others later. It's as if love is a zero-sum entity. Whatever I keep for myself, I cannot give to you. Well, love is abundance. So whatever I give to myself doesn't take away anything that I can give to you or you can give to others. Self-love is what's embedded in the golden rule. The golden rule, which we see in many different ways, and it's something that happens all throughout the cultures. They all have one way or another to say it. In Luke, we say, do to others as you would have them do to you. In Matthew, in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. So we want to give to others what they are giving to us. So it's sort of like, okay, I need to have it here. And you can give that, and I can give to you. Some people think that the golden rule really implies that we give to others and we don't think about what is ours to give to ourselves. Some people believe that the better way of posing the golden rule might be do for myself as I do for others. Think about it. How many times have you done something, said something, felt something, acted in some way for someone else from a true sense of love that you probably wouldn't ever give to yourself? That's not respectful of who we are. And I think one of the reasons why we don't look at loving ourselves in this more positive way is because we have some trouble accepting love. We have trouble seeing it in this way. You need to love yourself. I do love myself. Then what's the problem? I have trouble accepting self-love. I'll speak only for myself, but I know that there have been plenty of times where I've had trouble accepting self-love. One could argue that I still have trouble in certain situations. And my guess is you probably feel some of that as well. And some days I'm able to love myself better than others. Some days I can feel proud of what I've said or done or who I am. And other days maybe not so much. The key to really being able to love ourselves is recognizing that we need to give birth to ourselves. Erich Fromm is seen as the father of a new identity of loving yourself. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a purely loving way. To love ourselves. To give birth means to really honor and respect ourselves. And a lot of us think we're loving ourselves, but we may be finding it in all the wrong places. Yes, we may find it, I don't know, maybe in a mall, maybe at a restaurant, maybe at the bar, maybe with certain people. We may find it all sorts of places besides ourselves. Charlie Chaplin, the actor, might remember him as the little tramp. Charlie Chaplin says that as I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. That sounds in some ways a little harsh. But I'll use a little trivial example. I know that to free myself from my love of potato chips, which is not really about the potato chips, okay? I need to free myself and keep them at the grocery store and not in my house. Because if they're in my house, I'm not free. The potato chips and I are merging. Okay? I like to say I've never seen a potato chip I didn't love. Although recently with some of the new flavors, not so much. We all know that money can't buy happiness. We all know that. In this cartoon, money can't buy happiness. But if I had a big house, a fancy car, and a giant plasma TV, I wouldn't mind being unhappy. I would not mind being unhappy. Well, is that loving ourselves? To have the big house, the new car, big plasma TV? Well, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure. Sometimes we need to let that go because these are actually barriers to our ability to love. Rumi, the Persian poet. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. To find those barriers. Now, a lot of those barriers probably came up to protect us in some ways. Maybe there were people in our lives as we were growing up who just weren't very healthy themselves and said or did things that hurt. And so we put up a barrier. Or maybe we've had relationships with people and they have gone south. So we put up barriers. So Rumi says these barriers, and he's right, these barriers keep our heart so protected that we forget to let them down when those people, those situations are no longer in our life. We keep them up all the time. To love ourselves is to see that true beauty and potential in us. Just as we prayed for wholeness, for all in the world, for the world as a whole, that wellness, we can also apply to ourselves. That wholeness that we are. It's recognizing the potential within us. If you will, the Christ consciousness within us. There was a book written in the 60s, 70s, can't remember which, titled by How to Be Your Own Best Friend. I don't know if you remember it, if you read it. I read it more than a few times. There was a wonderful Maytag, the washer-dryer people, had a repairman on there, and they always said that he didn't have much to do, and one commercial showed him reading this book, How to Be Your Own Best Friend, because nobody needed to come and needed him to make repairs. But the point is then finding that happiness within ourselves, generated by ourselves. That's not always so easy to do because there's often that hole within us, a hole that's longing to be filled with love. And so we fill it with all sorts of things, which may not, like the potato chips, honor me. And I can tell you after the holidays, I don't need to see a whole lot of those foods for a long time. For a long time. It's joy, and yet step on the scale, not so much joy. Hard to see yourself whole and well when you look at those numbers. So what we need to do is find the true sense of ourselves, that true Christ presence that we talk about. We need to love ourselves. And one of the reasons why this is the greatest act of love is that it is only from this place that we can love others. Emerson says, we must be our own before we can be another's. We have to be here for ourselves before we can be for others. Now that may seem a little bit hard for some of you, but it really is, in fact, the truth. Love. When we think about love, true love, pure love, in one definition, is offering that feeling, that joy, that presence, without expecting anything in return. Nothing. You just give it freely. And my guess is over this holiday season and throughout the year to come, and out the past year, you have given yourself freely to someone, to something, and done it without expecting anything in return. This is what I look at as pure love. Now, if we're not loving ourselves, it's maybe hard for us to think that we can love others. And some people think, I can love others. I can't love myself, but I can love others. Let me tell you, if I came up to you and said, I have a flower I want to give you, and there's no flower in my hand, what am I giving you? I'm giving you a thought and a feeling, but I'm not giving you that real flower, that true essence of the flower. In other words, we can't have it within us. We can't give it away if we don't have it within us. And we've all given love, even though we may not have felt it inside in that moment. But the amazing thing is, the more we love ourselves, the more we can honor and respect ourselves, the more we can give that to others. The more we can bring it forth without expecting anything in return. Because if we give love, knowing that we have barriers up, knowing that there's already a hole within us, then we're often giving love expecting love to come back. I'm giving you love because I want you to love me. Now, I'm all for reciprocal love, but this is, I want you to fill me up. I want you to make me feel good about myself. And if you think about it, if you're giving love coming from that empty place, then you're not giving love freely. You're not expecting anything in return. And we do this. I've done this many times. I think one of the things that has been interesting is that I've thought about this topic many years ago. And I wasn't able to do that because I couldn't talk about self-love because I didn't have enough of it myself. And so it's challenging to talk about things that you don't believe in or don't think you have. So therefore, I can talk about it because, okay, I'm not like Garfield looking in the mirror going, yeah, it's me. I'm good. I'm great. You know the old expression, two people talking with each other. He said, well, enough about me. Now, what do you think about me? Yeah? It's not that sort of love. It isn't the true love. We can also find ourselves not able to receive and accept that. How many times have you been given a compliment and then brushed it off? This was a delicious meal. Oh, I just followed the recipe. Okay, but you followed it correctly. That's always a good thing. That's a beautiful dress you're wearing. You look beautiful in it. Oh, this whole thing? Okay. That was very clever of you to come up with this solution to this problem. Well, I just came from nowhere. I don't know. I kind of learned it from here and from here and from here. It really wasn't about me. I just put these things together. These things are about us, and they're about recognizing and not rejecting ourselves. We don't like other people to reject us, but we can end up rejecting ourselves if we're not too careful. And how we feel about ourselves becomes a template for the relationship that we have with others. Cherie Carter Scott says, your relationship with yourself is the central template from which all others are formed. I know that there are periods in my life that if I did to them what I was doing to myself, be bad news. Those are those things. So, all right, so here's it. I've talked enough about this as loving ourselves is the greatest act of love, and how we don't have it, and why we need it. So how do we obtain it? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. One is, there are lots of ways to do this. I'm going to talk about only one. The other thing is, it takes some time. It takes time. Now, you're probably not going to, I'll leave the idea open, probably not going to hear this message having seen these slides and walk out the door of the church and go, wow, I love myself, with really meaning it. We can say it, but do we really have it at heart? And learning how to love ourselves is not a linear process. It's not running through the alphabet, A to Z. We may go A to E, and then maybe to C, and then up to P, and then we may feel like we've come all the way back to A, and we keep moving. It's a cyclical, right, you know. Thank you. Process. Has its ups and downs. But one thing that we can do that really helps is to use something that is very important in unity, and that's the I am statements. If you recall, I am that I am is the name that God gave to Moses up on the mountain with the burning bush, the 10 Commandments. When Moses is asking God, who shall I say when people ask me, where did I obtain these 10 Commandments? Who do I say, give it to me? And he says, I am that I am. I am. We are the I am. As God's beloved expressions of God, we are that I am. It acknowledges us as that aspect of divinity that we talk about so often, but not necessarily give to ourselves. Think about how many times you say I am or I'm in the course of your day. I don't know about you, but I say it a lot, and I've started becoming more aware of my saying it and of other people saying it as well. Now we can say, and we frequently do say in church, in prayers, I am whole and well. I am beloved. I am the Christ presence. I am love. I am joy. But how many times do we also say, I'm sick? Right? I'm broke. I'm tired. I'm whatever. When we attach negative things to the I am, then we are providing them with an energy that isn't appropriate for that. It's not honoring the God within us. And we want to do that because when we honor that, we're honoring ourselves. So instead of saying, I'm sick, I know one time when I was not feeling well, there's another way, I said, my stomach and I are not one today. Because we weren't. Now that may seem like a whole lot more words and syllables than I'm sick, and it is. But when you say I am sick, you are affirming that that is the truth about you. And we don't want to do that. When we say that with the energy of the I am, with the energy of God. So this is why it's so important to really pay attention to what you say after I am. I've been doing this for several years. Boy, am I not an expert at this. Not a clue. I come away more times going, well, what did I just say? I hear it in some others, but it is such a habit for us. And it shouldn't be. I am is so important to us in unity throughout the world that we need to continue to honor ourselves by making sure that the I am statements that we say are truth. Not error, but truth. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about unconditional love. You might remember her. She's written a number of books. She is I'd say the forerunner of understanding the process of grief, of dying, so that we recognize, yes, we have multiple feelings as we go along, and really helping us be okay with where we are in that process. Well, one of the things that she says is the ultimate lesson all of us have to learn is unconditional love. But she goes on to say, which includes not only others, but ourselves as well. Unconditional love. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we like everything we've done or said, but that doesn't mean we have to condemn ourselves. When I say something that, in hindsight, I realize was really mean, if I go away and call myself and say, I am mean, then I haven't forgiven myself. I haven't honored myself. I did or said something that I realized wasn't me, was mean. I'm still a beloved child of God who's at work in the process of expressing that. We talk so much in unity about being one, about oneness, that we are all together, one entity. We are not only one with God, one with each other. We are one. But if we're not loving ourselves, do we have one? No. What we end up with is one minus myself. Oneness, except it doesn't apply to me. One means all of us in this great world. So, loving ourselves is something that is actually a precursor to us really understanding the truth about us, the truth about love. It is the precursor for us being able to give to others freely, unconditionally. And I say, the greatest act of love is when we know that love begins with me. Love begins with me. Now let's take this thought into meditation. And I invite you to remind yourself that you are here. We are here in the present. We let the chair support us. We let our shoulders relax. We spend our time, our thoughts, our energy right here, now. And in this now, in this presence, I invite you to bring to mind something you said, you did, you felt about yourself that was loving. You know, that day when you were working on all cylinders and you feel good about yourself. We feel good about ourselves. I invite you to hold on to that thought or multiple thoughts. Bring to mind all that you can think of. Where you knew you loved you. You can say where I knew I loved me. I invite you to keep those images coming as we spend time in the silence. love begins with me. The greatest act of love is to know that love begins with me. And as we become aware of being in this place and at this time, as we begin to open our eyes, I invite you to take this opportunity this day and the days coming forth to see those I am statements, to bring yourself to honor and to respect through the I am. And begin to know, really know yourself, honor yourself, and know that love begins with me. Amen.